Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Welcome, everybody. Today's Big Blend Radio show is our fourth Wednesday Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime show. We're your hosts, Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team on the Love Your Parks tour and publishers of Big Blend magazines. Now, the Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime is a local Tucson, Arizona chat. You know what? I love this. I just love Sisters-in-Crime as a whole. But also from our hometown, the local Tucson, Arizona chapter of the international organization Sisters-in-Crime is made up of authors, writers, readers, librarians, editors, publishers, agents, and booksellers with a passion for the mystery genre. They also welcome sisters and brothers in crime from everywhere who have an interest in writing and also in the Southern Arizona mystery community. So you can go to their website. It is Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime.org. We've been having these wonderful conversations. We started them earlier in the year, and so we're very excited to welcome our next author from the Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime chapter, author Paula Winski, and you can go to her website. It is winskybooks.com. She's also on Facebook and Twitter. And welcome, Paula. How are you?
Hi, I should have told you my name is pronounced Winski.
I knew it as I said it. I was like,
yeah.
See, we had all this conversation before we started push that record button. But to me, it's like wind sky, big sky, you know, because you were out in I know that your background is also that you've moved to Arizona, but you were also in North Dakota. So I thought big sky. So I'm covering my tracks. But I'm sorry.
It's a common mistake.
Well, good. I always mess up everyone's names, and even like next time you come on a show, I'll do it wrong again. I'm sorry, but that's my problem.
No, that would kind of make it British. Yeah, that would make it British. Yes, that would be British. So
this is interesting because you grew up in North Dakota. I can kind of hear that in your accent, but then it's like Paula F. Pfeiffer Winski. So you got the Pfeiffer in there. That's kind of Scottish, isn't it?
No. That's German.
Oh.
Yes, very German. So yes, I spent most of my life in North Dakota, but I moved here to Arizona in about 2014.
Oh.
Okay. So, and from what I was reading on your website, that you live near Snowflake, Arizona, which is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful. Snowflake, Greer, that whole area is so magical, especially now, this time of year, spring. You know, that it'd be right as we head into summer. It's got to be beautiful right now.
So it's wonderful. I really like the wide open spaces, which I had in North Dakota. And I like to be able to see the mountains, which I couldn't in North Dakota. So, and it's not as hot as Phoenix and Tucson.
Yeah, that gets hot. We know.
But this is interesting that you connected to the Tucson Sisters-in-Crime. Why did you choose to connect with Tucson?
Okay, there is also a chapter in Phoenix, but their meetings at the time were in the middle of the week. And Tucson Sisters-in-Crime was on Saturday. And I couldn't imagine me getting down to Phoenix in the middle of the week. So
with you.
So and I thought, well, I can get to Tucson on a weekend.
Okay. So you get to Tucson. Now, have you done any writing that goes with, because this is, we've interviewed authors that are in Tucson. So you're first kind of out of Tucson boundaries, which is just up the road, really. You really are. You're a scenic drive, by the way, but up there. But have you incorporated Tucson in any of your writing?
Not Tucson, but I did incorporate the Snowflake, Taylor, Show area in my ninth Tony Wagner mystery called The Reverend and the Kidnapped Girl. I set it completely in this area. All the places are real, and the people are fictional.
Oh, see, that's it. So okay, everything is real, but the people are fictional. That's cool, though. So when you even think about history, that's about keeping history too.
Mhm. So yes, I like to really put people in the settings, and it's a comment I've gotten on my writing. Well, I could just picture that place from your writing, and I want it to seem real.
See, I like that. I like that it, just to me, being able to feel the place, the sense of place, is a huge deal. It's about because you don't understand the people because the people are connected to the place, right? Unless they're just walked into an area, and then you need to feel the person, right? But that's the important thing. Is sense of place.
I one of the things that I worked on, in my early writing was I knew I didn't have enough setting in my books, and so I kept working on it and trying to get the not just what the character would see, but what they would smell, the feeling of the air. I have a little note above my computer that says 5 senses, so that I just don't write about what they see and hear, but what they smell, and what they feel too.
It is about the smell. People forget that, right, Nancy? We got to have the smell. Nancy's a smell person. She is. So I think it's interesting that you bring that up because we all kind of forget. We always talk about how the emotional feeling is, how the air feels on our bodies, but we forget the smell. That's important. Yeah. So that is. I'm glad you bring that up about all 5 senses. Now let's talk a little bit about your book series. You've got the Tony Wagner, the Randy McKay, and then you also do romance. You have family sagas. You've got middle grade. Going. This is interesting. So where did it all start for you about writing?
I became a horse crazy girl at age 12, and just within a few months after that, I started writing stories about girls and horses. Okay, and my high school classmates remember me sitting in study hall writing stories. So that was the first start. I moved on from there to family saga, and I did romance, and one day I asked myself, you read mysteries, why are you not writing mysteries? So I started trying to write mysteries.
Just started writing this. I think that's it, the mystery thing. Now, okay, so you started writing mysteries. Was it from the male perspective too, more than female, right? And even my other books tended to be from a male point of view. Most of them. I have no idea why.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Maybe,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Maybe because they seem to have more say-so in things, possibly.
And it might be that. A little more freedom. So it's probably not fashionable now, but I'm comfortable with it.
It doesn't matter about being fashionable.
I think you should write what you feel like, from whatever standpoint you want to do. Go for it.
So, and my readers, especially my readers, love Tony Wagner, and so I am just going to keep writing about him as long as I have ideas for stories.
Cool.
So where did you get the feeling of like Tony Wagner? Like, where do your characters come from? What do you get the inspiration for them?
I really don't know where Tony Wagner came from. I wanted a really conservative, and so I made him a seminary student in the first book.
Wow.
But I didn't want a perfect guy, so he has a past.
I want a perfect guy.
But that shows up in the first book, and he's just a very likable character. I will never write about anti-heroes. I don't like reading about them, and I'm not going to write about them.
Yeah, because I think you've got to. No one's going to believe someone being Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect or Miss Perfect, or you know what I mean. That doesn't. You're not. You want to have the underdog too. You want someone to have faults because that's how we identify with people a lot of the time is through that. Actually, it's like, oh, you went through that. I feel that too. You know what I mean? I think we have that connectivity of that. But I like this that you go into writing mystery series, and you were a horse crazy girl, and I was looking all the photos on, I think it was your Facebook or website. I got all stuck into that of all these horses, and
Cool.
I was a crazy horse girl, like crazy. and we had horses, and we lived in South Africa, and I was like, that's it. I'm doing horses. I'm going to the Olympics. But then I didn't like what the Olympics did to horses, so I stopped that idea. Like just personally, I saw so many horses just get hurt over those jumps, and I was like, I don't want to be one of those. I don't want to do that. You know what you've seen those. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yes. And my personal experience was with Tennessee walking horses, and I also there can be abuse of those, but I went with the natural Tennessee walking horses that they didn't have to do anything artificial or cruel to them to get them to do what they're supposed to do. So, yes. So I also battled with that use of horses too.
From being a horse person, and that one Palomino, my gosh, I was like, that's so beautiful. Do you think it's ever like kind of connected you in regards to, because there is a special bond. I know Nancy's going to think, she's going to go, you're going back there with your horse thing, because she had it too. Like you have this conversation with horses. I mean, we travel full time. We do all this, work with parks and public lands and downtowns and everything. And then we pet sit, and you get connected with the dogs and the animals, the horses, whatever it is, chickens, turkeys. You start to have these conversations and this connection. Do you think that with horses, because there is that fleeting danger, that when you're on a horse, anything can happen, and there is something that you know what I mean? That yes, we've all been hurt. The doctor and the vet bills are bigger than the food bills. But there's this special thing. So there's having to be really observant and also very open. Do you know what I mean? There's this connection. Does that help you develop I know this sounds weird, but that connection so help you develop characters and read people better?
I think it's trying to figure out. You were struggling with the words, and I'm struggling with how to put this. All of my characters are horse lovers, and I think there is something about horse lovers, animal lovers in general, that is different than people that don't want anything to do with animals.
Absolutely.
And I think there's more empathy in animal lovers than there was in people that don't like animals. Does that kind of answer your question?
But yeah, there's an empathy. So then you have this more kind of. I feel like there's more observance. When you have the empathy, you're more observant. So you're seeing more than the average eye.
There's also a trust factor. Like if you're going to sit on a horse, you're trusting that horse not to throw you in a ditch somewhere. Even though that does happen.
The horse does have to trust you too.
Yes, exactly. So that's a bond. That's a really strong bond.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important for me to make my characters horse lovers, because there's just that understanding there. And in the one story, Silent Stranger, which was supposed to be my first mystery, turned into a romance mystery, the character cannot communicate in any way, but when he sees his horse, he immediately connects with the horse. And so I wrote that in there, and I think that's just what we're talking about is the connection.
Yeah, and go ahead, Nancy.
I was just going to say, with animals, we speak out loud to animals, and they react to that. But most of the time, they actually don't really need that. They really, it's a, they go by your facial expressions, they go by smell, they go by touch. But we need to talk. They need to bark or not bark. We need to talk.
That's exactly right. In some of this natural horsemanship training, one of the trainers that I followed said, "I have ducked you if you cannot shut up." Don't be talking all the time, because the horse just learns to tune you out. So when you actually say something like "whoa," they're ignoring your voice. So it says don't talk to the horse unless you have something to say to them. You know, use your body language.
Was she British?
No, believe it or not, there is Americans who follow that same
Well, I'm just thinking back to doing some working with a horse in with South Africa, and the judge.
British.
Yeah. So I entered this stupid competition with the horse, and I talked to my horse the whole time. Like, turn left here, to do this, do that, and
she was doing
ears.
dressage, which you do not do.
And they told me to shut up. They were like, "Don't talk to your horse." I'm like, I want to talk to my horse.
Well, okay. So it's interesting. You bring the horses into your books, right? Are they in all your books? Romance, family? I mean, Randy McKay, Tony Wagner.
Pretty much, you know, to a greater or lesser extent. You know, in some books they're very significant, and in other books they're just, you know, okay, we're going to go for a ride today. You know, so it just depends on how it works into the plot. In my third Tony Wagner mystery, he ended up having to outride a wildfire on his horse. And he was afraid he was going to kill the horse, but if they stopped, they were going to get killed by the fire. So that was a real significant horse-involved scene.
Oh, so you got the horses in there. So I want to get into what you do, as you are a Navajo County Sheriff's Auxiliary volunteer. So
yes. Okay,
so that's got to help with writing mysteries, right?
I've learned so much in doing that.
Cool.
For instance, one of the things that our volunteer group does is we will do security for a crime scene until the law enforcement releases the crime scene. We sit there, and even if an FBI agent came to investigate, they would have to sign in with us.
Cool. Like, no way.
I like
That's
it.
Cool. I know. It's like, Nancy, contain yourself.
I know.
I know. This is cool.
So the book the Randy McKay book I just published, Written in Smoke, is about a serial arsonist, and I had to set on an arson fire, and well, it was pretty boring, but I just looked and I took notes as, the trees are scorched, but only on one side, and where the fire department put water on it, well, here's where the water ran downhill and took the debris and the soot with it. And so I was able to put that in a setting to really give the feel of what it looked like after an arson fire.
Oh, wow. You know what? That's powerful. And that's what it was saying about sense of place as being such a huge thing. Nancy and I have been through fires, including arson fires. And we've been in hotel fires, we're done with fires. I don't want to know about it. But it's weird, and it's a creepy feeling being in an arson fire, knowing someone wants to burn your town down. And, you know, because there's like a copycat thing from a wildfire, and the DEA that started the fire clipping a power line because there was pot growing in the town we were living in, up in the mountains in San Diego. It's a long story, and it just gets me angry to this day about how things were not handled and how things were. It was really good, and it just created this scenario where these arsonists tried to burn our town down. We had one road in and one road out, and when you went out, you were in the desert, and when you came in, you were coming from the coast. And they were setting fires. So all of us, for a year and a half, we went through so many fires and through wildfires and arson fires, and it was a very unsettling feeling for a year and a half. And everybody drove around with, I know this is on another show too, coming out at the same time. Everyone's going to think we still have PTSD on this, but we drove around with shovels to put out fires because they were sparking up all over. And it's really devastating what happened. And at the end, we had the cedar fire, and that came from hunters out in the woods, and it was the largest wildfire in San Diego or California at the time, and that was 2003. And it really was huge. And we went through that, and so many evacuations, friends losing their homes twice in a year and a half. It just, it does happen because you move to another place, and then that burns down. And a lot of our stuff went down with it too, because we moved our stuff to where we thought was safe, and that went bye-bye. So it's just a weird thing. And to be able to really put that, like you were saying, about what happens with the tree, I think that's important that you have that. And I think a lot of times, like you've got to do the research. And if you can get on-hand research, if you're going to write about a place, a specific place, either if you're not going there, write fantasy, or go there, or you really need to immerse yourself in everything you can as a writer to really get the feeling. Because if you don't know what the weather feels like, you don't know what it feels like to be in a fire. Like, did you feel that too? What it's like to be in a fire, that smell, that you talk about the smell again. I think your readers won't get it, and then someone who's been through it, they're going to call you out. You know what I mean? They're going to call you out.
That's right. And I joke that I don't write police procedural because I don't know that much, enough. So I joke that I put in enough detail in my mysteries to make it sound like I know what I'm doing, but not enough so I prove that I don't know what I'm doing.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I know. But it's cool. But do you think your readers really identify because of that sense of place? Is that your thing, like really putting you in there?
Yeah, they do, and my characters are family people. They've got kids. They also deal with, my kid has sports on this day, so I'm going to have to go in uniform to the track meet because I might get called. Really, my characters are really see family as important to them.
That's important. That's important. think that's something important to have out there. So you started writing, and then your husband says, "Hello, you might want to start publishing this." You know, you have a grand hobby, and your husband said, "Hello, well, do something about it."
Well,
That's cool.
when I was in college, I asked an English professor, "How would you get published?" And he said, "I'd marry a publisher's daughter." And, you know, at that time, you know, in the early 80s, that was about as true.
Yeah.
And so I figured, well, there's no hope of me ever getting published. So I just wrote stories and put them in 3-ring binders and stuck them in a box in the closet. And
that kills me to hear it. It does.
So one day he asked me that question, why don't you try and get published? And it was just at the advent of print-on-demand publishing. And I did, you know, I submitted to some small publishers, and after a while I just decided, okay, I'm tired of waiting for them. I'm going to publish. And I did, you know, after several years, I published a couple with a traditional publisher, and I went back to self-publishing. And my goal is just to write so many good books that somebody notices me.
I think it's kind of like being an artist, going to art shows. Like, you need to go and try to get in, like, the fanciest gallery who makes the price really huge, and their percentage that they take is way more than what you get as an artist. Or you can go to local art shows and just keep showing your work and producing your work. There's 2 avenues there that you can go to one side or you can go the other side. And I think there comes a time where in an artist brain, which a writer brain is probably exactly the same, you're doing what you do because you want to do it your way.
Yeah. And, you know, I have these stories, and I just keep publishing them. I keep writing stories, so I got to do something with them.
Exactly.
And, you know, I've developed a following now, so people are especially waiting for the next Tony Wagner mystery.
Cool.
You know, he is everybody's favorite character.
So if you would pick an actor to play him, who would it be?
Don't ask me that.
Oh, come on.
I really can't. You know, somebody suggested an actor, and I thought, no, that's not Tony. I really can't picture that, because I you know, I can tell you how tall he is, and that he's blonde and with blue eyes, and
Brad Pitt.
I don't think Brad Pitt's tall enough, because
you know what though,
I
think it's hard. I think you know what though, when you do that kind of thing, I think it's great in a movie, and we always ask this question because it is fun, but when you read a book, it's your own imagination. I think that's part of the beauty of books, is that you are co-creating when you read. You know?
Yes. And that is why...
I know who I want is a blonde-haired big boy with blue eyes.
Well, who is that, Lisa? Who do you want as a blonde-haired big boy?
Well, there's quite a few. But you know what I mean? So you don't want to ruin it for somebody else. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's a weird, and it's a natural and normal question, and we talk about it on our shows all the time. But then there's that other side of like, well, it's like listening to music. Everybody has a different opinion and a different vibe.
If you made it into a movie, you're going to only pick one person, and who would that be? The ultimate.
I know Nancy's going back. She's like, "Don't you take me away from that?"
Yeah.
Well, you know, and in my early writing, I did have an actor pictured when I was writing. Well, that wasn't the Tony Wagner series.
Oh.
But when I was writing my Collins family novels, I had, of course, this was a long time ago. I had pictured my main character, James Collins, as the actor Robert Urich.
Oh.
And
I remember him. Yeah.
That's a long time ago. As I got to writing more and being
He's
more
cute.
experienced writer, I didn't need to do that anymore. I just, kind of had a vague idea what he looked like, and that's why I don't go into great detail describing my characters, because I want the reader to use their imagination.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's so important. And isn't that when you write something, you don't want to overtell? That's that balance where you have to leave that air of, even if it's not a mystery, you always have to have the mystery.
So, I mean, that is the essence of reading. People that love to read, as opposed to people who don't like to read and would really rather watch a movie or a TV show. They don't want to use their imagination. The people who just really love reading want to use their imagination.
It's an escape. That is part of it. And it's allowing you to be, it's like, don't interrupt me when I'm reading. Don't, because I'm in my little fantasy land, and it's like, there are certain seasons. It's interesting. Spring, you want to go, sit under a tree with wildflowers and have a picnic and a good book. I mean, do we get to that? I mean, summer is like that. Fall is like that. Winter, you want to snuggle up with a fire, You wanted to have those scenarios where you could just be left alone with a good book. So you can have your and it lasts longer than a movie. I'm not knocking movies, but a book lasts longer. And if you're that involved in it and it ends, you're really mad at the end because it's like you can't shake it. Movies, sometimes you get a really good movie that it sticks with you the next day, and I love it. But a book, you're living with those characters sometimes for a week. It's like...
and that's as a writer and a lot of readers, I like writing series because someone described it to me. It's like visiting old friends.
Yeah.
And people who like to read series are that way too. I can't wait for the next one to come out and see what they do next.
Yeah, because you're invested in the characters.
Yeah. And you remember, and here's the deal too. So it's like Netflix too. Netflix, that's why people binge, because they get into these series and you get attached to the characters. But I think it's really hard for the creators of the movie series and everything, but also very difficult for the writers too. So I wanted to touch on that. To write a series, that's got to be hard to get everybody on board in regards to, like, you've got to remember every little thing from every character. They have this quirk or that quirk, and if you forget the quirk, your readers are going to call you out.
So, when I start every new book in the series, I have to go, for one thing, how old are each of the kids now? And make sure that they're the same distance apart as they were in the last book. And this book that I will be publishing in June, it's like, what was the name of that little town in the county? So I had to go back to the last book and find out the name of the little town in the county. So I recently had one of my fans, whose wife is also a writer, went through each of my books and did a really detailed outline of this happened in this book and this happened in that book. And I've thanked him for it. I have not had time to sit down and look at it and compile it into a file, but that's going to be so useful in the future.
Well, what a great idea, though. You know, to be able to do that. It's almost like if you write series, you have to have a database of your character traits and places.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
And
just looking at photos of Robert Urich right now.
Oh, stop it. Oh my gosh.
No, seriously.
But okay.
Cool.
I know this is interesting. So you've been doing mystery. You've got Tony Wagner, Randy McKay. You've got your romance, your family, middle grade. So tell me about that. So that's kind of young adult books.
No, middle grade is for younger kids, around 6th grade level. And
you can tell I don't have kids.
Well, I did not know that. When I finished the book, I brought the first 3 chapters to my local librarian, and I said, "Tell me what grade level is this for?" And she said, "Middle grade, around 6th grade." So it was. I had written the story when I was a teenager, and of course, the story I wrote as a teenager was really awful. But I just took and rewrote it. I gave the character a different name. I gave the horse a different name. I put it in a different section of the horse industry. So the name of the book is Gold Star Lee, and that's the Palomino horse you saw the picture of, and it's about barrel racing. And I kind of have another idea for a book for the same age group, but right now I'm not inspired to write that. But people kept asking me, "Do you have anything for kids? Do you have anything for kids?" And so I wrote one for kids.
Wow. So this is interesting because, you know, when you think about, you've got something going on, and you know, just it's going to happen, but you just said, "I don't have the feeling for this right now," but it's there, so you put it aside. So do you write it and put it in? Do you put it in a box somewhere? Like, do you have it in a desk drawer that I have this feeling for this, but I'm not in the mood right now? I know that feeling.
No, and a lot of authors do outlining, detailed outlines before they start writing. The biggest outline I've ever written was on the back of an envelope. My brain is a storehouse of useless information. I'm great at Trivial Pursuit, so I can just keep. That's my filing system.
Cool.
I like that. I like that a lot. This is such a cool conversation. I love this. You know, all the authors we've been chatting with through Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime, it's like, okay, are we talking about dead bodies in the desert? What are we talking about? And this is interesting. We're talking about horses, and you never know. This is cool. And, you know, your background of being a volunteer, sheriff auxiliary volunteer, but actually, so do you get to ride in the cars, or do you drive a car? What happens as a sheriff volunteer? Like, what, I mean, do you patrol? I want to know. I want everything.
Yes.
Do
you have a billy club?
We're kind of described as the eyes and the ears of the sheriff's office. So we do patrol. We do ride around in a regular sheriff's department vehicle.
Cool.
And we are unarmed. And we do like house watches for people that are like seasonal visitors, and so their house is empty a good part of the year, and so we go and make sure everything's secure. If there's a traffic accident and the road is blocked, then the deputies will bring us in, like, to block the road at either end, and sometimes the deputy has to go on another call, so we're left in charge while they clean up the accident. We do the crime scene security, like I mentioned before. We do traffic control for parades, security at the county fair.
This is cool. So,
I mean,
that's got to be really good for you on all levels of knowledge. I mean, you're also watching the public, what's going on with the public. I mean, even with the parking, people get irate. And you can tell when they're coming what kind of people that is. You know, it's like, oh, here it is. Here we go. And you can already tell, like, if you're observant, like, are they going to, you can place bets just by their attitude of how bad it's going to get. You know what I mean? And, am I right on that? Like, seriously, I don't know. Nancy and I love to people watch, and we just give them all their own. We are terrible. We're terrible. It's like our favorite thing. It's
no,
like
we Las Vegas is the best. You want to watch people, go to Las Vegas, watch people, and you can make up stories for everybody. It's so much fun.
So people watching is a good exercise for writers.
Yeah.
So it's it's like you say, you can make up stories for them, and you can turn that story into a book.
Yeah. Mhm.
I know.
Sure.
Have you ever done one of the nano things, the November book writing, the novel thing that happens?
I did it 3 times. And
cool.
finished the 50,000 word novel 3 times, and then I realized, I can write a much better first draft in 3 months than trying to get it done in 1 month. So it's like, been there, done that. Nano is really great for the people that never finish a novel. And
or procrastinate that I want to do one, and I've sat and written 10 words, and it's a good kick in the butt.
I think so. But your characters, do you like we people watch, you people watch? Do you like? I don't know if I was going to write any kind, and I started a historical
She's stuck on
novel.
Robert Urich. I know it.
No, I'm going to Sam Elliott for a really good character book. But with his mustache, he's not. No, I don't like it without the mustache. No. No. I spent a lot of time making, Lisa, remember the chart of the world?
Yeah.
Trying to get dates right when things were invented. I started this big chart of, and it papered our walls in our house of when things were invented, historical novels, trying to get it all right in my brain. And I never wrote the novel, but it was a great chart.
Well, and that's it. I like to set my novels present day because then I don't have to worry about giving them a cell phone in 1960, But now, last year's novel that I published was Murder at Taurus, and it was my first attempt at science fiction. It's a science fiction mystery.
Cool.
And I just set it late 21st century. And I did quite a lot of research on, what is the technology that's on, the cusp right now. And I had those things in my story. I set this novel on the moon, and so, what's the future of lunar exploration? And it's commercial. So I put a titanium mine on the moon. I put a ice mine at the North Pole on the moon. I have another settlement harvesting helium-3. And
gosh.
I have ideas that I have actually written down for other novels in this series. So I but I understand when I wrote that, I understood why science fiction and fantasy writers enjoy it so much, because the world building was just fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
You can do it your way. Yeah,
I like
that
you are so diverse in what you're writing. I love that why not do this? You know what I mean? I love that. Really. I think it's important too, because I almost think that sometimes you get, and it's got to be hard too with the series, you can get stuck in a trap it's like the same thing as an actor being typecast, that you get stuck in a trap. And if you don't venture out into another dimension or a different territory, then you get stagnant. You have to open your doors as a writer. Anybody in creativity, unless your creativity is based on being stuck in, like, I'm never going to open my eyes, ears, or I'm not changing anything, then your art is about that. You know what I mean? If you don't move forward, and which you've done, I mean, that's awesome.
Well, what happens when you have to kill a character you love?
I rarely do that. Because I hate it when I'm reading a book and the author does that. Like in my family saga novel, I did kill off the character's father, and that was really tough for me. I was sad by that, but I felt like I needed that to to put this through that trauma, for him to change and grow. In my Tony Wagner mysteries, the main FBI agent in the series is Garrett, and now I've gotten down to, this will be the 11th book, and he's talked about retirement for several books, and it's like, okay, he's announced his retirement, he's going to be retiring, and it's like, would I kill him off? And spoiler alert, I'm sorry, I just could not kill off Garrett.
That's funny. I like that.
Oh my gosh, I
like that.
That's cool. So, what's next for readers to know, and new readers? Where should they start? Should they start from the beginning with your books, or just dive into what they feel? I mean, you've got a lot of books out there. You've got a lot of series, and I know you have new books out now.
So, well, I get asked that question when I'm selling books a lot. I do suggest people start with The Reverend Finds His Calling, the first Tony Wagner mystery. He's a seminary student who gets drawn into the hunt for a serial killer and discovers he has a passion for investigation. I did write that in 2007, so if they wanted to start with one of the newer books, they would not be lost, but there's going to be talk about some things that happened earlier, and they're going to want to go back and start from the beginning. So might as well start with The Reverend Finds His Calling. And then this year I'm publishing, in June, I'll be publishing the 11th in the series.
Cool. Wow.
And then I had a few fans ask me to write a crossover mystery featuring both Tony Wagner and Randy McKay. And so that will be my next year's publication. I've just started on that.
Wow, you're busy. You're busy. So
yeah, I did not intend to publish the 11th Tony Wagner mystery this year, but I wrote the first draft in 3 months, and I thought, I can get this ready for this year.
Well, I mean, go for it. I mean, that's it. I know. It's the whole pandemic, it's been like a weird thing, too, and I think a lot of our creative friends are just like, okay, well, I'll create,
Yeah.
And, create on.
For sure.
I know I know with you being part of the Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime, it's, Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime is very involved with the Tucson Books Expo books. I mean, that expo is huge, and you guys have a booth there and everything, and so that didn't happen last year or this year. And so I want to thank Eva Eldridge, writer Eva Eldridge, is part of Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime and making all of this happen and connecting us all, because it's important that authors, these book festivals and expos are huge. Connecting readers with their authors or favorite authors, and for readers to find new authors. And authors to connect. I mean, it's just so cool on all levels.
Yeah.
It's educational. It's fun. But it's a bummer what's happened over the last couple of years, and so it's cool that we can at least connect in this way. But you know, when you think about Tucson, you know, you drive down there, so you probably haven't been doing a lot of driving down. But is that part of it for you? Is that expo and being part of the Sisters in Crime in Tucson is being part of the expo?
That is a big thing, and last year especially hurt because they canceled it at the last minute. I mean, I was almost packed.
Yeah.
And I do really well at the Sisters in Crime booth. But I tell people I'm a shameless self-promoter. You know, people walk by and I say, "What do you like to read?" So you know, I'm just really good at talking to people and finding out what they like. And you know, if there's another author beside me that writes what they like, I say, well, I don't have that, but this author over here has it. Because we need to support each other in any way we can. And I got last year, so I started going to more swap meets just to get my face out in front of the public.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I've also done some internet advertising and run some specials on the internet. And sometimes my Kindle sales are more than my sales in person.
You know, you have to try because once you produce a product, if you're not marketing it, it's going to take you a lot longer. You know,
right.
Yeah.
I want to ask about your specials because I know you do. You know, authors always have a special happening every month or whatever, every 2 months or whatever's going on, depending on their genre and whatever's going on. So how is Facebook the best way for folks to keep up with that for you?
Yes, I have an Author-Paula-F-Winskye page, and I'll give updates at least weekly on what I'm writing or if I'm editing or getting ready to publish. And then if I'm going to run a special, especially on a Kindle edition, is what I usually do, I will shout it to the rafters from my Facebook page. So anybody who likes or follows my Facebook page, they will have the updates and know all the specials as they're coming up. Right on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a true pleasure having a chit-chat about horses, being, a volunteer cop, right? And also your book.
Cool.
And, it's been awesome talking. It's been a great conversation. I want to close with a song called Little Liar because it's like, it just feels like a horsey song, like you're on a horseback and you're running and, you know what I mean? And, she'll come out and get you. I'm just saying, Paula's out to get you. Paula, this is called Little Liar from the Joiners. You can get it on Bandcamp. It's from their album Glorious, Glorious. But also keep up with Paula. Paula's website is WinskyeBooks.com. So it's INSKYE books.com. Did I get that right, Paula?
Right.
Awesome. And she's on Facebook and Twitter. So on Twitter, where do people find you? What's your best handle?
It's at A-Winskye, and that's for Author Winski.
There you go. There you go. And thank you all for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com. Every fourth Wednesday, we have our Tucson Sisters in Crime show, and I encourage you to go to their website, Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime.org. As, Paula's showing, you don't have to be in Tucson to be part of them. They're an awesome organization, and, especially if you could be living in New York and want to write something on the desert Southwest. Well, you want to connect with your sisters and brothers over in Tucson. So, again, the website is Tucson-Sisters-in-Crime. Thanks so much, Paula.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure. Absolutely. Here it is. The song, Little Liar. It just feels all Southwestern-y and, Someone's on a horse. I know they are. Here it is. From, again, everybody, The Joiners. You can find them on Bandcamp, The Joiners on Bandcamp, and it's from their album, Glorious, Glorious.
1, 2, 3, 4. Baby, now somebody else is breaking my bed. There's no more bullets beneath my sheets, guns behind my head. Baby, now I'm finding out that I like life on the run. From 666 crucifix, my nightmares and your gun. I will run from the little liar. Don't waste time with those matches, son. You're already on fire. Yep. See, I've run your horse before, just to find the finish line and even up the score. See the scars on my back I got playing with fire, but the biggest one's deep in my chest, and it comes from a little liar. I'm gonna run from the little liar. Don't waste time with those matches, son. You're already on fire. I'm gonna run. Your turn, I see your burn. You got the mark of a little liar. Yep. Best, I must confess that messing with my mind. But I start to think everything's pink when I'm looking at her from behind. So thank you, little liar, for getting out of my bed. Don't forget your locket now, you're forgetting your head. I'm on the run from the little liar. Don't waste time with those matches, son. You're already on fire. I'm on the run. Your turn, I see your burn. You got the mark of a little liar. Yep. Somebody else is breaking my bed. No more bullets beneath my sheets, guns behind my head. Maybe now I'm finding out that I like life on the run. From 666 crucifix, my nightmares